Hi, I'm Nichole Clarke, and my project is working on developing the iOS version of App Inventor in order to democratize cross-platform mobile development. Now, a big thing about App Inventor is that it's block-based visual programming, and so it means that when you're developing an Android application, you don't actually need to know Java or anything of the like. Now, when it comes to iOS development, there are still very large barriers to entry. One, you need to know Swift. Two, you need to have an iOS or Apple device such as a Mac laptop. And three, the cost of owning that device is pretty high. So what we wanted to do was develop and democratize not only Android development, but also iOS development. And that's what my project is working on. I'm working on developing the components for the iOS version in the native language of Swift. That way what you're able to do is take your existing App Inventor project and then compile it into either an iOS or Android device. Now what I worked on was developing components, and inherently there were a couple challenges because the Android version already existed. For one, we wanted to really keep the Android version as the standard. So it meant that when we were doing things like the map view, we had to ensure that each tile overlay matched what already existed on Android. And for iOS, that meant adding in a custom tile overlay. Additionally, we wanted things like the accelerometer sensor to use the same coordinates, because it'd be odd if you ran the same app on iOS and Android, but one had up going this way and the other one had positive going this way. So we really needed to map that to be the same. We also wanted to keep the same human interfaces that Apple had laid out already and really not have it feel as though you're using something that wasn't actually an iOS application. And then lastly, we had to deal with permission handling, which was dealing with permissions at runtime and accepting or rejecting them to follow what Apple did. Ultimately, we've had some pretty good results though. By randomly selecting 1.8 million applications, we're currently able to build 65.44% of the applications. And let me put this in perspective. The Android version of App Inventor has been around for 8 years, and we just began work on the iOS version in this past year. So I'd say we're doing pretty well.